Hey out there in YouTube land, it's Kuda Slayer, aka Daytime Number the Beast once again, and I kind of want to talk about a subject I sometimes hear from game masters when they say they have trouble with their settings, especially for kind of a niche role-playing game system like Mecha and Zeta. Um, and I had this thought, throw out some pieces of food for thought and kind of help deal with some of these issues. Um, Today I was going to talk about what be it like for running a military type setting and some issues and angles you may want to consider covering to kind of add more life, more personality to your setting, kind of give your players more of enriched experience. And generally in settings like this, my kind of rule of thumb is if you have a question on a subject, um, first always look up sources on the Second World War, because you'll find a lot of answers there. If you don't find what you're looking for at that point, go and start looking into Cold War, more modern settings, especially depending on what day you're watching this video. Um, Kind of get a little bit of context. Today is the 6th of March 2022, and we're about the first week or so of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Just kind of give you some context. Um, but and if you don't find anything in modern sources, then you may want to look into the First World War. That will answer a lot of questions you might have. And then if not, start looking further back, because even during like the age of sail and such, you can find all kinds of interesting things to throw in to give your role playing experiences more depth and such. So anyway, for a military setting, the first question I would ask myself that I was going to build a game setting is, what kind of environment is this going to be in? Is it kind of more modern type setting? Uh, is it more kind of further set back, or kind of more archaic, primitive even? Like, is the structure kind of more tribal? Is there actually a true formal? Are all the officers really just nobles? That's where they get their authorities and commissions from, or is it like a kind of more of a modern day army where officers have their commissions from a recognized government or authority, while you have lower rankings of soldiers and sailors and pilots under you? Um, Another question to consider is, how are your forces divided, and how do the enemy forces, are they divided? Do they have a land army, an air army, naval army, space force? Uh, are there subdivisions in each branch, like Navy and Marines, which are kind of a combination of aquatic and land forces for amphibious operations? Um, and if that's the case, then what's your relationship between all these branches? Are they cooperative? Are they fighting for resources between each other, or prestige? It's like during the early days of the Cold War and even out to today, the U.S. Navy and U.S. Air Force fought with each other a lot about who was going to be the kind of prestige force and who was going to have control over nuclear weapons. There was a big, long battle between the bombers that would deliver the bombs, or the ballistic submarines that could hide and carry the bombs and give their nations a first or second strike ability. You know, do these all these branches, do they cooperate with each other? Do they they may have, is it kind of bureaucratic or passive aggressive or whatever? It's like during the Second World War, there's been several instances of the Navy, the Imperial Japanese Navy and Imperial Japanese Army, both being very adversarial with each other, such as the general doctrine of the land army was that they'll, when they're deployed out to whatever island or continent or whatever, they were kind of expected to kind of take care of themselves, be self-sufficient because of the expanse of ocean that and their naval forces or supply lines we have to cover to supply them, and then of course the Navy kind of felt like there was some pressure on it to be subservient to the land forces, which they were not going to have many of that. There was like especially later in the war, there heard stories about how they would literally have Japanese ships loaded up with supplies, and they'll just be hauling out in the middle of the night as quick as they can, and once they get to an island where the forces they're supposed to be supplying are, they will literally just kind of float by the island and push everything off deck, and if the army that's on the island right there actually had forward knowledge that they were going to be there, they would swim, or if they didn't have knowledge, they would be frantically out there swimming to kind of rescue any supplies that may or may not start sinking at that point, while the Navy starts turning tail and heading back to the home base or homeland. What is the relationship between all these branches? And another consideration is, what is the relationship between officers and the everyday soldier, sailor, pilot? What is it? Is the structure that governs how authority, how chain of command and such, how are those orders delivered? Do the again, in the Japanese system, the officers often had full authority to use corporal punishment on their lower rankings, and it wasn't very uncommon for them to wail on a soldier or sailor with a wooden stick or whatever, and beat them to death to an inch of their life. And that was kind of horrendous. When you hear some of the stories about what happened there, and there's some discussion about why that was one of the reasons why there were so many crimes against humanity committed by the Japanese during the Second World War, because of that kind of system, because the officers were just absolute abusive towards their charges, and since the average soldier didn't really have any outlet to vent their frustration, a lot of times they did vent it out on enemy combatants, civilians, which, according to their belief systems and propaganda at the time, they viewed anyone who wasn't Japanese as being much lower. In some cases, not even a person in their eyes. So, things like that. What kind of thinking like that would bring out in your setting? Let's see. Other things to consider, since we did talk about civilians, how do civilians view the military? Are they patriotic? Are they, your players, are they kind of an occupying army? Are they from some other country and trying to protect this country? How they view them, how the civilians view them. Where they, if your average man in the street meets one of your players, are they going to be respectful? Are they going to be appreciative? Are they going to be angry at them? Like, you're the one that stepped in my house. I know it, and start an incident. Fight or riot. What if your players are out on a mission and they come across a group of refugees leaving the war zone, or other groups of civilians, um, especially if the enemy are attacking them, would the players go their way to, jeopardize the mission to protect those civilians, or would they go on and follow the orders? You know, there's all kinds of ways. Uh, you know, especially might be a theme you want to consider. Show your players that war is hell, and show them, these are things that actually do happen. I mean, you can be even more cruel and introduce your players to, say, the typical war orphan, the skinny, hunger ravaged, kid with the easily comparable, miserable looking dog, and have them become like the unit's mascot or something, and have something happen to the kid, or the kid's a false agent or something. I mean, there's all kinds of ways you can do that, but that's something else to keep in mind. Do they do the civilians even care? Are they off doing their own little thing? Their own self-indulgences, or are they just trying to live their own lives, despite how many rockets and bullets are flying all over their heads? In that case, the Vietnam War and Korean War would be good sources to look at. Let's see. Other things you kind of think about is what is your characters? What kind of where are they basing out of? Are they flying long-range missions from the homeland? Are they stationed at a forward base? Are they even further past like a fire base or something like that? Somewhere that's well into enemy lines or the combat zone. What are they? What are they going to see? Are they going to see just miles and miles of jungle or farmland or terrain just totally chewed up by constant fire? Or are they, even see anything that's, reminiscence of civilization still remaining out there? Maybe it's a village or something that people are too stubborn to leave. Or if they're if they're operating off of, say, like a carrier, they may not, they might be far removed from seeing civilian casualties or anything like that, but there's always kind of opportunities there, because keep in mind, a carrier is kind of even though it is a military base, it is still a closed system, and there's plenty of things that can happen in that, like like a carrier, or nice comfy base position in the homeland. There's always going to be that one particular officer that he's either out to prove themselves or bring down, if they can't advance, they can bring down someone else with them, to make their lives hell. We've got one bureaucratic minded lieutenant that decides they just don't like your characters whatsoever, or they don't believe in the Mecha piloting program or something. They got a chip on their shoulder, some kind of beef, and they're going to go out and make their pilots hell, your players' lives hell, or maybe they'll come across the sort of the patronage of another higher ranking officer, like maybe a captain or brigadier or something that has been around for a long time and kind of recognizes what your players are, that they're all good men, even though there might be a bunch of smart asses that get in trouble, and sort of their I say, like a higher ranking guardian angel. They're always covering for them or pulling strings or doing something, help try to use their authority and power for good to to do good. They maybe they have a stake in the Mecha project or whatever your settings revolves around, and that's something else to consider. Let's see. Another thing is, like, I'm kind of real big on showing you players what war is hell, and that it happens in all parts of the war zone, even far from the lines. You may have have your players, if they're not on duty, have them serving as guards. Like for whatever reasons there are not enough troops, and so they give the pilots some rifles and have them stand here and uh, guard this post or whatever. And kind of make them do something like that, or have them if they get in trouble. Put them. There's the old stereotype of the military of being on kitchen duty. You're sitting there peeling potatoes because you accidentally flew too low during that, making that sonic boom, and the general's not too happy about his windows now, his glassware broken, or somebody didn't know that somebody else's daughter was some general, and hilarity ensues. Have them do something that's maybe not so much as punishment, but they're pressed into doing it because there's not anyone else to do it. It's like there's another channel I follow called Subbreath, which is done by a gentleman that used to be a sonar operator in the Navy, and he talks about some of the trouble he would get into. It's like one time he accidentally kind of embarrassed himself in front of the ship's submarine's captain by operating the sonar and accidentally giving away the submarine's position to everybody else in the water, and talking about having to clean deck towels for the toothbrush for many days. There's all kinds of ways of bringing that. Have them have the players be part of a accident on the ship. There was unfortunately I don't remember the dates, but on the USS Forrestal there was a live fire accident when the flight deck of the ship was covered in fighter planes loaded with weapons and fuel, and future Senator John McCain was in his aircraft, and kind of show how small the world is. And another pilot, while they were switching the weapons on before launching, when they hit the switch, there was a stray voltage that set off a rocket in one of the pods, and the rocket flew out, hit a fuel tank or another aircraft, I don't remember which, and caused a great giant fire. Fuel and ordnance flew everywhere, and things were exploding, and it was kind of one of the most horrible accidents that happened during that. I think it was part of the Vietnam War, if I remember right. But that's a situation you may have your players involved with. They may be off duty or something, and all of a sudden the sirens go off, and the ship shakes or whatever, and they have like the brave soldiers they are, they grab their equipment or fire extinguisher or whatever, and just run towards the source of the explosion. Have them endure that, drive home that war is hell. There are other situations like I remember from President George H.W. Bush. They talked about when he was shot down during the Second World War. He was rescued by the Archer, if I remember right, and the time he was on the submarine. Even though he was a pilot, it wasn't a free cruise for him. He was they put him to work. Since he was a pilot, the pilots don't normally have pretty sharp eyes, and so they often put him on guard duty to kind of keep an eye out for planes when the submarine was surfaced. I'm pretty sure he peeled a lot of potatoes in the ship's mess. There's all kinds of opportunities to give the players in that. Let's see. Yeah, that should be about enough for anybody. Again, if you have any questions or anything, my order recommendation is first look in the Second World War for answers. Then start looking around in modern settings like Cold War or current day. Then you can probably go to the First World War or earlier times. Look for inspiration, I should say. Or even go back, sometimes, the anime franchise or the source you're trying to base your setting on may have some other answers, or maybe that's kind of a detail they may have overlooked. So anyway, hopefully that was some good food for thought. If you have any other questions or anything, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.